Welcome to the next installment in my lecture series for the Principles of Microeconomics here at Rutgers University. And in this video lecture, what I'm going to go over is the relationship between marginal cost and average total cost. I discussed this in class, but I wanted to review this because I think this is an important concept. Also, I'm going to explain to you why, for example, average total cost has that shape. But I'm going to review some things with the relationship between marginal cost and average total cost. Remember what I told you with marginal cost and average total cost, that think of marginal cost as driving the shape of average total cost. That whenever marginal cost is below average total cost, you see average total cost declining. So in this region here, on the left of this dotted line goes through the minimum of the average total cost curve, because I'm going to explain these two separate regions. That when marginal cost is less than average total cost, what do we end up saying? We see that marginal cost declines while marginal cost is below average total cost. So in this region to the left, marginal cost is less than average total cost, and we see average total cost declining. Then we get to the point where marginal cost intersects the minimum of the average total cost curve, and to quantities to the right or at greater levels of output than that minimum point, we see that marginal cost is increasing and it is above average total cost. And in this region where marginal cost is greater than average total cost, we see that average total cost gets pulled upward. So that's what I mean when I say that marginal cost is driving the shape of average total cost. When marginal cost is less than average total cost, here on the left-hand side, the quantities to the left of this dotted line, we see that average total cost is declining. Once marginal cost is greater than average total cost, it starts to pull average total cost upward. So make sure you understand that relationship between marginal cost and average total cost. Now if we take a look at this region, this particular dotted line, and what I'm going to compare is the region, the outputs, the quantities to the left of this dotted line, to the left of where we're at the minimum of the average total cost curve, and the outputs to the right, or the outputs that are greater, the Q's where the quantities to the right of where we're at the minimum of the average total cost curve. So if we take a look at these lower levels of output, where output is to the left of the minimum of the average total cost curve, if we take a look at that, the explanation as to why average total cost is declining in this region is that the impact of decreasing average fixed cost outweighs the impact of decreasing marginal returns to labor. Remember when I did the lecture on the relationship between average fixed cost and total fixed cost, that when at those initial levels of output, as we produce output, we are spreading cost out on those outputs. And remember that at those initial levels, that the decrease in average fixed costs is greater at the beginning levels of output. So as we increase output when we first open up, average fixed cost is declining at a great amount at those initial levels of output. So we see that average fixed cost is declining greatly in this region. So the reason why your average total cost curve is declining in this region is because you're spreading those fixed costs out on those initial units, and there's a great benefit to that at lower levels of output. Just realize that also as we increase output, at some point we're going to hit decreasing marginal returns with labor. So the reason why average total cost is declining is that the benefits that we get from spreading those fixed costs out over higher levels of output outweighs the impact of decreasing marginal returns to labor. So that's why we have a declining average total cost curve at the beginning portion of this, that we are spreading out fixed costs on those output levels, and the benefits of that is much greater than, or is greater than, the decreasing marginal returns to labor that we end up hitting. So here we have increasing marginal returns to labor until we hit the minimum of the average total cost curve. So in this beginning parts of average total cost, we're getting two benefits. We're getting the benefits of spreading out those average fixed costs over higher outputs, and then we're also benefiting from the fact that we're actually have increasing marginal returns to labor. Our marginal costs are actually declining by hiring additional individuals. We have higher levels of productivity for those workers. Then once the marginal cost curve slope turns upward, we're in the region where we have decreasing marginal returns for labor. So at the difference between this minimum point here and the intersection of the average total cost curve, we are still seeing the benefits of spreading those fixed costs out over greater units outweighing decreases in marginal cost. Once we hit the minimum of the average total cost curve, we end up seeing the opposite happening. We see that the impact of decreasing marginal returns to labor outweighs the impact of decreasing average fixed costs. Remember, the greater Q gets, average fixed cost gets closer and closer to zero, but at those higher levels of output, the decreases in average fixed cost get smaller and smaller and smaller. So the benefits of spreading those costs out over greater units becomes less and less at higher levels of output. All right, but then we have decreasing benefits from those decreasing average fixed costs, but then we start kicking in where decreasing marginal returns to labor start kicking in. So that's where the marginal cost curve is increasing, but our average total costs are going up. So what that's telling me is that these decreasing marginal returns are greater than the impact of the decreasing average fixed cost. So as I'm hiring more and more workers, what I'm doing is my labor costs are outweighing the benefits of my average fixed cost going down. So those marginal costs are pulling average total cost upward.